Dorothy Hamill, three-time United States champions. Second twice in the World Championships, now going for it all.
Double lutz, very neat. Look at the beautiful spiral that she does pulling out of that.
Now trying to fulfill an 11-year-old dream of becoming an Olympic champion.
Now watch her drop it down in a move that she invented called a Hamill Camel, taps the foot on the ice and into a back fist, and she has done it, I am sure. The competition is yet to come, but this was a lovely, lovely program.
Dorothy Hamill has conquered stage fright, has done a brilliant performance.
There it is. Oh, look at the flowers coming on the ice. Just marvelous.
Picking up another. He's going to get some help now for the very, very young ladies that help with the judges. And here are the first set of marks now. As we look up, we see 159, and the rest are 5/8. And now the second set of marks for artistic presentation. Let me look at them with you. They're all 5/9.
Appraisal, an assignment of value or worth. Appraisal. This whole idea of performance appraisal is really a fundamental part of everyone's psychological makeup and is a basic part of the process through which we relate to the world around us, the process of making choices. All through history, we have observed other people and evaluated their behavior according to our own goals and our own needs, and changed our behavior on the basis of what we saw.
The evaluation of others is a complex process, however, and as societies themselves became more complex, it wasn't long before we began to realize we differ in our abilities as judges. Because of our biases and prejudices, we sometimes give higher ratings to those we favor, while others, regardless of actual performance, may receive lower ratings. Xin Yu, an early Chinese philosopher, criticized a biased rater in the imperial system and pointed out that
the imperial rater of 9 grades seldom rates men according to their merits, but always according to his likes and dislikes.
Perhaps the first industrial application of merit rating was in the cotton mills of New Lanark, Scotland. Over each employee hung a little cube of wood with a different color painted on each side. Based on his perception of how each of his employees performed, the supervisor changed the colors of the cubes to indicate his up-to-the-minute rating of the particular employee. Some he considered excellent, others good, still others indifferent, and some bad. At a glance, the supervisor could see how his workforce was faring.
When the manager and the subordinate are placed in conventional and typical performance appraisal roles in which the manager must pass judgment on the employee, and when the employee must either passively accept that judgment or defend himself the best that he knows how, it may lead to counterproductive anxiety and perhaps even hostility.
There's nothing worse than facing an appraisal with that dreaded feeling of waiting for a judgment to fall, like a prisoner waiting for sentencing.
Yes, sir. Bill, Mr. Bliss will see you now.
Thank you. Well, Bill, how's it going?
And if there is mutual discomfort with the situation, both parties are liable to be less than open in their communication with each other.
Well, as you know, Bill, the time has come for me to tell you about your annual performance report.
Yes, sir.
I have your evaluation form here somewhere. Hello?
A lack of preparation, a failure to set the necessary time aside, may lead to a suspicion by the employee that the appraisal is not as important to the supervisor as it is to him.
Now, where were we? Oh, yes, your evaluation form. Oh, there we are, right there. Well, Bill, first of all, I'd like to compliment you personally for bringing your work group along.
Even if preceded by the usual positive note, if the appraisal goes on from there to become a simple listing of criticisms, it often accomplishes little more than bringing out the defensiveness natural to any person who feels under attack.
Oh, well, you see, my feeling, Bill, is that you're a little weak in your team spirit. You concentrate too much on your own group's production.
And when criticism follows criticism without an attempt to mutually and openly explore the causes, then the situation cannot help but become more and more strained.
Yes, sir. There is one other thing that I have to discuss with you, and that's the matter of the turnover in your group this past year. Now,
no matter how much the subordinate wishes to avoid confrontation with his supervisor, there may come a point at which frustration gets the better of him, and open hostility breaks out to the detriment of any real communication.
and
Mr. Bliss, now I don't mean to interrupt you, but I mean, the reason for that is really quite simple. I mean, I work very hard to develop my people. Now, if the department can't give them a chance for advancement, can't offer them as much as that they would make somewhere else, I really don't feel that I should stand in their way of the better offer.
The supervisor himself may become defensive if he feels accused of being unfair.
I have an idea, though, that...
Bill, don't you think that I'm aware of these problems, too?
All of which can lead to a total breakdown in communication.
Just answer yes or no.
It's only natural when the subordinate is placed in a threatening, judgmental situation for him to become defensive or perhaps attempt to impress the supervisor favorably by covering up weaknesses and problems. All of us have had unpleasant experiences all through childhood with the negative judgments of parents, of teachers, and perhaps even of peers. And it's no surprise that this underlying fear of judgment shows itself in a variety of negative attitudes later on.
Our negative associations with performance appraisal begin, ironically enough, with the most overtly supportive appraisers we ever encounter, our parents. As we begin to explore the world around us, our parents begin to take exception to certain things we do. Things which are to us no different from a lot of other things we do which they ignore or even praise us for.
What'd you do that for? Bad boy, you knocked the pot over. Bad. You shouldn't do that.
The inconsistency is baffling. They seem particularly determined to frustrate our most urgent explorations and experiments. Their explanations are lost on us. We are not yet ready to accommodate any notion of self-denial.
Justin, look at the mess. I can't believe it.
By school age, our struggle for independence is intricately interwoven with every aspect of our life at home. Recognition that we are all in similar conflicts with our parents is a strong bond between us and our peers.
Look right here, please.
We discover that our parents have allies in our teachers at school. They treat us very much as our parents treat us at home. That is to say, inconsistently. They give us encouragement and guidance in exploring the possibilities of our environment. but they also move in on us with what seem like arbitrary restrictions on our self-determination. Worse still, they lay judgments on us and try to make us feel guilty and inadequate. Everywhere we go, rules, restrictions, self-important adults throw up barriers on our road to autonomy. In our teens, our longing for self-determination reaches feverish intensity. We make new demands, declare new rights in areas where we were formerly submissive. At home, our fight for independence is undercut by the inescapable fact that we remain dependent on our parents for support.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Our shared view of authorities collectively as the enemy unites us in common cause with our peers. It's us against them.
Hey, I don't know about you guys. You're not really working hard. Come on, you gotta work harder than this. This was lousy performance, man. This was as bad as I've seen you guys look. You know, you deserve a lot more than this.
The structures that powerful adults impose on us seem specifically designed to keep us from becoming our own masters. We particularly resent those we identify as the source of those structures. With time and experience, we can modify these feelings.
And I'll have to cite you into the juvenile court, which will require your parents going along with you.
Yet most of us retain some negative feelings of vulnerability whenever, in later life, we face a situation that brings us under the direct scrutiny of anyone who has power and authority over what we do.
I just hate to get my rating. Even though I know I always do a good job, I'm afraid that they'll mark me down on something that wasn't my fault.
My supervisor's got no idea the problem's down here. I mean, I try to make some suggestions, you know, how to improve the line. Do you think he'd listen, huh?
And as we know, it's not just those being judged who have difficulty with the appraisal interviews required of them.
Oh, one thing I hate is to go over a man's report and tell him where I think he's gone wrong.
Yeah.
Especially in some cases where it might be my own fault.
We've all gone through that.
But you're gonna be better on time today, Frank. This is my business. I used to hate knowing someone was up there judging me. And I used to hate to do it to others, too. So I got my own business. The only trouble is, now business is so good, I need some kind of an appraisal system.
So a variety of appraisal systems have been developed in recent times in an effort to find something that suited the needs of the organization and the individual, to integrate the goals and the mutual interests of both. A seminal study was conducted at the General Electric Corporation by Dr. Emmanuel Kay and his associates.
So it's not really a matter of whether to appraise, but rather what appraisal system or method, best gives the results we should get from an appraisal system. And here I'm talking about things like, better job understanding, more effective performance, and on-the-job development. Now, what we did was to take a good-sized cross-section of people from a GE plant. We had engineers, technicians, specialists from the different business functions. And we compared their performance before their appraisal interviews with their performance afterwards. And in doing this, I think we came up with a number of very interesting findings. Criticizing an employee did what you might expect it to do. It caused the employee to become defensive. And that the more you criticize, the more defensive the employee became, and down the road, 3 or 4 months later, the pattern of poor performance still persisted. So criticism had no effect on changing performance. And I might also add, somewhat surprising to some people, that praise, many managers really laid it on, and praise had no visible effect on performance either. Another thing we did was to have half the managers continue their appraisals in the way they always had. That is, the supervisor told the employee in the appraisal session what they should do to improve.
I think this year you're going to have to make some improvements in your shop.
We asked the other group of managers to use an approach in which they encourage the employee to develop their own specific goals.
You know, I really have a good idea on that. I think that we just have to...
These goals were then discussed, modified if necessary, and agreed on. The results strongly indicated that those employees who had goals actually achieved more of their objectives than employees who played a more passive role. And our conclusion then was that a more active role by the employee through goal setting, not criticism, nor even necessarily praise, should be part of any effort to improve performance.
Mattel Toys, a division of Mattel Incorporated, is another of the companies which have recognized that an effective approach to the subject of performance appraisal can play a major part in the accomplishment of management objectives. Recasting the appraisal situation into a helping relationship in which the employee is asked to understand the company's goals and allowed to participate in setting targets for himself is an important part of the process. All Mattel managers participate from time to time in performance appraisal workshops, which use videotaped replays and open discussion to improve the application of Mattel's appraisal system.
What have you people found individually as a manager to be one of the benefits to you by using a goal-based performance appraisal system as you work with your employees on a monthly, yearly basis?
I started setting goals for non-exempts a long time ago because I found that they were drifting. If you had anyone with any longevity, they would drift on you and they would decide that whatever it was they were doing, as long as they were here on time and dressed appropriately and didn't squander an unusual amount of money and beat up on the equipment, they could get a satisfactory review, and that wasn't where I wanted them to be. So I started using a goal system for my non-exempts and my exempts in another fashion, using memos.
Viva was saying if you don't know what your employees' goals are, and you're just ticking them off, the person might have a lot to offer that we don't even know about. Right. By talking about it, finding out really where they want to go, we can help lead them there instead of just leaving them in a, like you said, a clerical type job.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, if they don't have any participation in the process, then they're sort of a stranger to the whole thing, and there's probably not a lot of commitment, and probably, like you said, Sandy, not a lot of growth either.
I think everybody's interested in, whether they admit it or not, what's in it for me. Right? You go down a checkmark system and it's what's in it for the company. You know, are we getting what we need out of the employee? But it's a twofold process. The employee has to feel that he's getting something in return and that there's a future there.
I think one of the important things is to establish a working relationship where the employee feels as comfortable as giving you feedback as you are to giving them feedback, so that you know, they'll come in and discuss problems as they arise and won't let the problem become something major. And I think that's one of the toughest.
Yeah.
Yes, it is. It's tough to establish
it. It's very difficult for employees to come back and tell you what they feel is going wrong, because you are in a very important position to them.
Trust, you know, and they're really maybe risking something by doing it. That's tough to do. But once you do it, I think you find things go a lot smoother.
Ray Wagner, president of Mattel Toys, talks about the Mattel system.
Our employees discuss with managers the criteria to be used in the evaluation of their performance. This evaluation of an employee's performance then is based on the achievement of pre-agreed upon objectives, and that's the most equitable means of appraising performance. This goal-oriented approach helps clearly define management's objectives and has improved the communication between managers and employees. This results in an employee having a better understanding of his role in the company and how it impacts the company's performance.
You've been motivating your people. Your attitude is wonderful. I've gotten great reports about you from corporate. There's a slight problem, though, with your sales plan. We set the goal last year at 130%, and we just haven't met it. And I'd like to find out what's happening.
Well, it ended up being the 130% was a little ambitious.
We probably should have talked about that last year when we set it at the goals.
A major objective for the managers is learning to establish a climate between supervisor and subordinate in which the judgmental aspect of performance appraisal, with its fears and hostilities on both sides, is replaced by a cooperative climate in which both the manager and the employee can work together to accomplish mutual goals.
Hey, what are some of your reactions and impressions on the climate that Jackie set in her role play with Fred about his performance?
Well, I think it's very important that the preparation is taken care of a little sooner than actually in the interview. I think a few improvements could have been made there.
I got the feeling that they hadn't had any kind of update since that previous year when they discussed the initial goals. And it seemed to me that Fred was kind of hit from the blue with the fact that he wasn't progressing very well with his goals.
The blue wasn't affecting my salary.
It was good, though, that she gave you the positive strokes at the beginning as opposed to
Yes.
sucking you with all the bad
It
news.
lasted about 4 seconds.
Yeah, there was
It
no
wasn't
balance.
long.
There was no balance between the positive and the negative
Right.
because we just sort of rushed through all that. You know, you're a really neat person and I like you a whole bunch. You're doing a lot of things right, and now let me talk to you about a slight problem.
Actually, it's a good problem-solving exercise in it. What are we going to do about the problem?
Basically, the formal review for me is nothing but making it official because I find that that's an inappropriate time to review problems. The appropriate time to review problems is when it's happening.
Right.
I really feel like I failed if I have to give somebody a bad review on a goal because I should have been there long before that.
Right.
Long before that. And I should have been doing something and redirecting and discussing and helping to problem solve and cut down all kinds of world blocks and things that are not letting the goal get accomplished. If I don't have to do that, then I probably allowed them to set a meaningless goal that I really wasn't interested in anyway. And again, that's my fault.
In the newer perspective, the appraisal becomes less a judgmental situation and more a process for developing a mutual understanding of the results the employee is expected to achieve, and also a process through which the employee develops a commitment to achieve these results. And since the appraisal is not something that one person is now doing to another person, but rather a process of joint responsibility, the supervisor is cast in a more positive role as a counselor, and the employee now can participate as an active adult.
One of the greatest rewards for any manager is helping the employee find the key to realizing his or her full potential. When people are making the fullest use of their best abilities, everybody benefits, and that's the payoff.